So the Russians are displeased that Yanukovych has lost in Ukraine. And in fact, Medvedev has called it a, quote, armed mutiny, and saying that the new government is illegitimate and they will not deal with the new government until they find it legitimate enough. In fact, he said there's a threat for our interest and for life and health of our people in the embassy. So Medvedev has pulled the Russian embassy from Ukraine. The Russians are absolutely livid over this. And now, they're not alone in being angry. The Americans are also angry at the Russians, saying, well, how dare you be angry at us for helping the Ukrainians overthrow Yanukovych? Okay. Now, the thing is, how could the Westerners be angry? I mean, okay, U.S. and the European Union, you basically won, okay, such as it is. Congratulations, right? And the people that organized the protest, most importantly, they won, right? They won, in their perception, their country's back. I understand that. But it's never enough for the Republicans here. First, we're going to hear from John McCain.
So is there anything else that the United States can do?
I think to speak out, to make the message clear to Vladimir Putin that a partition of the country would not be acceptable. The Ukrainian people will determine their own future. They want to be Western, Bob. That's what this whole hundreds of thousands in the square was all about. They don't want to be Eastern. And by the way, if I were Vladimir Putin today at the end of the Olympics, I'd be a little nervous because the people of Russia have watched this transpire, and they're tired of the crony capitalism and kleptocracy that governs Russia today. If I were him, I'd be a little bit nervous.
Oh my God. All right, first of all, that's embarrassing, man. What an unbelievable simpleton. It's embarrassing that guy ran for president, and it's embarrassing that I voted for him in the primaries in 2000 when I was a Republican. Okay, now I did it because of campaign finance reform, that's understandable, but what kind of a simpleton says that? They want to be Western, not Eastern. Okay, first of all, the reason why a part of Ukraine is now considering breaking off is because they have much higher affinity towards the Russians, which you're generically calling Eastern. And that's why you mentioned in the beginning, hey, you shouldn't try to encourage them to break off. Well, that voting bloc is the one that put Yanukovych into office in the first place. Now, obviously, I'm not a defender of Yanukovych. The man was massively corrupt. He put snipers in the streets. 82 people were killed. So, okay, I'm on the quote-unquote Western side, right? But not the whole country is they want to be West. They don't want to be East. It's a ridiculously simplistic way of looking at it, and obviously there's huge parts of the country that do not agree. And by the way, talking about how crony capitalism has taken over Ukraine, well, I agree with you. Fortunately, it's also taken over the United States. So, yay, Westerners. Okay, so now it gets to the point where Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor, President Obama, has to go on the Sunday talk shows and say, we're not restarting the Cold War.
Do you not fear that this could take an ominous turn, that Russia, particularly after these Olympic Games, could decide perhaps to send forces in to restore the kind of government that Russia would like to see? After all, it was Putin who guaranteed $15 billion worth of loans to Yanukovych so that they would reject the West, reject the European Union.
That would be a grave mistake. It's not in the interests of Ukraine or of Russia or of Europe or the United States to see the country split. It's in nobody's interest to see violence return and the situation escalate.
But isn't it interesting that I heard the president say, look, we don't want to look at this like the Cold War. But isn't that how Vladimir Putin views all of this? Doesn't he look at this sphere of influence very much in a Cold War context?
He may, but if he does, that's a pretty dated perspective that doesn't reflect where the people of Ukraine are coming from. This is not about the U.S. and Russia. This is about whether the people of Ukraine have the opportunity to fulfill their aspirations and be democratic and be part of Europe, which they choose to be.
It seems like the criticism of the Obama administration is, wait, why aren't you restarting the Cold War? I mean, this Putin guy here, we don't like what he's doing. He's got the Snowden thing, he had the anti-gay laws, we don't agree with him in Ukraine or Syria. Let's get those nukes ready. Everybody bring it down, man, bring it down. Look, on 3 out of the 4 of those issues, I find Putin to be despicable. I totally disagree with him. I think what he's done to really oppress people in his own country and democracy, etc., is outrageous. but we don't have to restart the Cold War. But like the problem with the right wing in this country is they desperately need an enemy. Who's the foreigner we have to go kill? Is it the Muslims today, the Mexicans, the Russians? Who are we going to kill? Who are we going to kill? Bring it down for a second, man. And I don't know if you know this, but even in your simplistic black and white world, in Ukraine, we just won. They're heading towards the west. The Russians lost. You don't have to nuke them on top. Okay. Now, by the way, why are they competing over Ukraine? Their per capita in Ukraine, do you know, it ranks 137th in the world, which is obviously not a good number. It's actually stunningly low, okay? But it's because they actually have a lot of natural resources. They have a fairly educated population. There's a ton of potential there. So, for example, their per capita economic output is only $7,300. But nearby, you have Poland with $22,000. So there's a huge potential in Ukraine. That's why the Russians and the Americans and the West are fighting over it. We understand that. That's realpolitik. But it doesn't mean we have to go thermonuclear, right? They already played it out in the streets and there was a clear winner. But no, it's never enough. So here comes Senator Kelly Ayotte, also a Republican, to say Obama wasn't man enough.
I will say this. Now that the Olympics are over, we need to watch the behavior of the Russians. And I believe the president needs to up his game and send a clear, unequivocal public message to Putin not to interfere in what is happening in Ukraine.
Let me pick up on that, because President Obama famously came into office saying that he intended to repair relations between the United States and Russia. Has President Obama's reset effort with Russia failed, and has it contributed to the problems that we have in Ukraine, in Syria, in Iran?
Yes, it has, Chris, and I think that's why this is an opportunity for the president to really be unequivocal with Putin right now in the Ukraine. What happens in Ukraine very much matters. They need to determine their future, not Russia. We have seen, obviously, behavior from Putin, from harboring Snowden to the efforts to interfere in Syria and also with arming the Assad regime. In addition to that, thinking about the reports of their violations of the INF Treaty, their reset policy has failed. It is time to reset the reset, and I think Ukraine presents an opportunity for the president to do that with clear American leadership here for a good outcome.
But we just won, even if you believe in the simplistic way of looking at it. Yanukovych is gone. He literally ran for the hills. Oh, no, it's not good enough. Sorry. Obama has to up his game. He has to reset the reset. He has to be unequivocal with Putin. What else does he have to do? Does he have to capture him and put him in Guantanamo? Yeah, okay, he was unequivocal, and our side is the one that now occupies the Ukrainian government. No, not good enough. Yeah, we beat the Russians in Ukraine, and again, according to this simplistic model. Thanks, Obama. But yes, if anything, you should be thanking him. You got to at least say, well played. But no, never good enough. In essence, the Republicans yelling at Obama in the words of comedian Russell Peters, be a man.